Academica Media. You are listening to Charter School Superstars, bringing you the voices of an education revolution.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Ryan Kairalla from Doral College. Our guest this week is one of our favorite people to have on this program. He is the Digital Innovations Director at Pinecrest Academy Schools and the creator of Edutainment Learning, a streaming program that brings celebrated guest speakers into classrooms of students all over the world. Our guest also operates Academica's acclaimed eSports league, and you can find out more about our guest's work by visiting www.edutainmentlearning.com. We are always happy to welcome Ralph Krauss on the Charter School Superstars. Hi, Ralph.
Hey, Ryan. Thanks for having me. I'm a huge fan.
Likewise, the feeling is definitely mutual here. It's been a few months, Ralph, since we've had you on the program. And for the new viewers and listeners that are finding their way to Charter School Superstars, can you tell them a little bit about what you do over at Edutainment?
Well, what I do is I connect expert guest speakers, people from all kinds of walks of life, all kinds of professions, with students and teachers from around the world who just kind of want to learn about various careers or primary source information, from World War II veterans, 9/11 survivors, to where they hear directly from the source their stories, and they can ask questions for a live two-way conversation.
It really does make the world smaller. You're bringing in all of these amazing guest speakers, historical figures, or living historical figures, I should say, Hollywood celebrities, acclaimed scientists, U.S. cabinet members, and you bring them into classrooms all over the place, classrooms that would normally never have access to these kind of. Last on the show, any cool edutainment developments you want to share?
Sure, absolutely. We've had Felix Rodriguez, who is a former, he shared about 30, 40 years of experience in the Central Intelligence Agency and participating in the Bay of Pigs, his first-hand knowledge of the capture of Che Guevara. That was really neat. The kids got to ask those questions for that. Holocaust survivor Ben Lesser, he's been on a few times. We have the director of the School of Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins, Dr. Henry Brem, CEOs. It's, this year alone, we've had over 100 guests. So it's very exciting to see the participation numbers growing, to see the likes on Facebook, to see the shares on social media, to see the follows on YouTube. It's great to see that grow so exponentially throughout the years.
The folks you're bringing in are definitely a lot more impressive than the people that showed up to my career day when I was in elementary school. I am very jealous of these kids. And one of the things that I think about when I see what you've been able to do with edutainment and how successful it's become is just that, this all started as just an idea. You were on school campuses, you were an educator like many of us are, and you got inspired to do this because you had an idea and you wanted to run with it. And I imagine there are a lot of educators out there who want to follow in that example. They have their own big ideas. Maybe they're sitting on a charter school campus and they have a great initiative in mind and they want to get started with it. So do you have any advice for those folks out there that have the big ideas on how they get started putting those big ideas into action on their own charter school campus?
Absolutely. There's two kinds of people in my world. There's dreamers and then there's doers. And if you can find that middle ground where I hate saying this cliche, if you can dream it, you can do it. Figure out what that dream is and kind of come to the conclusion that it's not that far away for you to reach out and grab it. It always takes that journey of a million miles begins with that one step.
I've so often found that what allows some of those big ideas to really flourish on a school campus versus the ones that die on the vine really comes down to the administrator. Because a teacher like you or a teacher like somebody who has one of these ideas, the first person they're going to go to is their principal. And whether that principal says, oh, I don't know how we're going to do that, let's just, let's postpone it, let's talk about it next year, versus the ones that immediately encourage that teacher from the beginning, awesome, let's do it. What do you need from me? I'll make it happen for you. That makes all the difference. And it sounds like you must have had a lot of folks like that along the way for you.
Absolutely. I've had a number of people from Fern Zulueta over at Academica and Dr. Antonio Roca, Lucy Keaton, Dr. Carrie Bach, people along the way who saw the value. I have a mentor. He's the director of the School of Business at Ohio State University, Dr. Mark Sullivan, and he always calls it that shiny rock that's easily to communicate in a few sentences that shiny rock that other schools want to do, but it's too difficult for them to do. Most people don't reach out and ask a lot of these guests. And so when I first began, I was just doing tech and innovation, and I came directly from the classroom. And one of my colleagues, he said, we're learning about the assassination of President Kennedy. Do you have any advice on how we could supplement that? And I reached out to Clint Hill, who was one of the Secret Service members who was closest to President Kennedy physically in Dealey Plaza when the assassination occurred. And so we got him on a Google Hangouts, and it was a two-way conversation. And he talked about the sights and the smells and the sounds. And thankfully, one of our board members was in the classroom, as well as one of the administrators. And they said, "Hey, I think you're onto something. Let's see if you can do this for other teachers." And it just grew from there.
I love that. I love mentors, administrators, people who take those ideas and let the idea creators run with it, are encouraging from the beginning. That's how great things happen on charter school campuses. It is such a welcome development. And speaking of cool initiatives that you helped conceive of, helped bring into this world, I am in love with the eSports program that you helped found that is being played by Academica-supported charter schools throughout the country, throughout the world, and it's just been such a blast. As you are looking forward to the new year with your eSports program, Ralph, what are you most excited about? What's on the horizon?
I'm just excited to see it grow. I'm excited to see new schools join us and join in on the fun. I'm excited to see students just be passionate about like team building, communicating, and competing against one another. Obviously, in a friendly environment. It's just been really exciting to be able to come up with that idea and then produce that idea. And like I said, you just jump right in, and it might not look pretty at first, but after a couple of seasons, you're able to smooth out the edges and try and compete with some of these other organizations that are in school esports.
I've been meaning to tell you something. I made a little note to myself. Next time I see Ralph, I have to tell him about this, because I saw the greatest example of how schools are shifting their mindset about esports and really welcoming it onto campus. I attended my niece's high school graduation, two of my niece's high school graduations last week at the Pinecrest Preparatory Academy charter school here in Miami, Florida. And when they announce each graduate, they can do this because their school's still fairly small. They had about 100 graduates. As they announced each graduate, they talked about the things that student did. So-and-so was the president of National Honor Society, or they were a 2-year letterman in baseball or something like that. And for the first time in a graduation, I heard them refer to a student as a 2-year letterman in esports. So you are right up there with all the other varsity sports now, like a bunch of kids playing esports, getting the cool letters with like the school letter on the jacket. Gotta love it. What a cool development. That must really put a smile on your face.
I'm absolutely proud of that. And one thing that's different between us and other varsity sports is every single season in the fall and the spring, we've been doing this tradition of setting up scrimmages between our top 4 or 5 teams against Division I and Division II colleges, where they get scholarships, and our kids are broadcasting it and doing play-by-play and playing University of Michigan, Arizona State University, Auburn. And it's just so neat to see that, whereas other sports, obviously they couldn't do that for safety reasons, but it's exciting to see like middle schoolers compete against Central Methodist University, and it's really cool to redefine what is and just make that a reality.
What an amazing development. How do they do usually? Do these kids hold their own against the college esports teams?
Yeah, absolutely. They do. I mean, there's some talented kids amongst our ranks. We have some wonderful schools over at Slam Miami. Coach Stevenson Charlo. We have Coach Luis Santa Cruz. He's over at Durrell Prep, and Mike Mitrani over at Hialeah, Mater Middle High. These are such talented teams, and they compete very well with schools on their level, but they can also compete very well against some of these colleges. Slam Boca is another one. That's Danny Tremano. These coaches are so passionate, and we couldn't do any of this without the coaches and the team captains, who are also very passionate, who see the why are we doing this, and they see the end result as it's being treated like an equal sport, that of football or basketball.
That is so cool. Again, super jealous of these kids. You're making all these great programs for these charter school kids. They get to talk to amazing guest speakers on edutainment. They get to do eSports. I mean, what I would give to be a high school student or middle school student again and enjoy some of these programs. Now, when you're not developing these programs, Ralph, you are also a key figure in advancing the charter school movement in Nevada. And it is criminal on our part that we do not talk to nearly enough amazing charter school figures in Nevada, because you guys are doing some amazing things over in that state. Can you tell us about some of the exciting developments you're seeing in the charter sector over there?
Absolutely. There's Pinecrest Academy of Nevada Cadence campus. They have a aviation and a drone program. Miss Purdock is their teacher. She's doing phenomenal stuff. They have flight simulators over there and at Pinecrest Sloan Canyon. I believe they have broadcasting over at Slam Nevada. They're doing a great job with that. I think they were state champions in wrestling, and just there's a lot of stuff because we're a few years behind you guys in Florida. So where you guys are off and running, we're just starting out, but they're doing phenomenal stuff over at Pinecrest Horizon with, extraordinary enrollment numbers, and just thriving through the pandemic, getting through that. And then once we're out of the pandemic, just competing against our school district here and just doing an amazing job. All of these schools Matter Nevada, Renee Fairless and Richard Santagate, they're doing a phenomenal work there with the culinary. It's just beautiful campus. It's just, I hope that you could come out and see us. And I also got to mention that you are a wonderful edutainment guest for our students passionate about law. Yourself and Roy Black was another attorney, and we thank you for
I just love being
participating.
put in the same sentence as Roy Black. That may never happen again. I'll take it.
Well, yeah, you guys were phenomenal. The kids loved it. We got great feedback from that. But I digress. We're doing phenomenal stuff over here in Nevada, and we're growing every single year, much like you guys in Florida. And it's just exciting to see that charter school movement and the school choice movement grow so quickly in this petri dish that is the Southwest United States.
So proud of what you all are doing in Nevada, and so happy for all the kids whose lives you're positively impacting. It's really terrific. You can find out more about our guest Ralph Krauss's work by visiting edutainmentlearning.com. Ralph, it is always a treat to talk to you. Love having you on the show. Before we let you go, though, one last question. If with the snap of your fingers you could make any change to the education system, what change would it be?
I would just have teachers not be so hesitant or not scared when they come up with that idea to make the product better, for them to just jump outside the box and just do it.
Because amazing things can happen, right? It is so cool.
What's that quote? What if I fail, but what if you fly?
Oh,
So
I like that. I like that a lot. Fantastic. Ralph, it's a treat. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this week.
It's an honor, Ryan. Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you all for checking out Charter School Superstars.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.